Yo, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to make a video kind of selfishly. I have a really bad memory, and I'm sure that'll be on display when I'm recording this. But I had a really fun last 2-3 months, I think. Like, competitive season of Flesh and Blood playing Dromai. And, spoiler alert, I managed to make top 4 of the battle hardened in Milwaukee. So that's kind of what prompted this video. Um, but yeah, I have a terrible memory. I would just like to kind of document it even for my own sake and just talk about, you know, what a couple of events that I went to, how I played. This is not going to be some, play by play of every single match, but I just want to have details so I can remember at a later point things that I definitely could have improved on, fun moments, and yeah, just have it for reference. So I'm going to talk about, let me pull this up. Once again, I need guidance. I'm going to plan to talk about 5 events. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on all of them. But these 5 events are a win-a-box the night before Battle Hardened Milwaukee. Then it will be the Battle Hardened. And then the 3 CC ProQuests I attended. And the reason I want to bring up this win a box win a case before the Battle Harden was because, spoiler alert, I guess, 2 of my opponents from this event I ended up playing in my rounds during the Battle Harden, which I thought was kind of crazy. So yeah, we'll just kind of breeze through that one first. And both the Battle Harden and the Win-a-Box were played with the same list. And I think at the end of the video, I'll just kind of talk about my thoughts on either the end or like when I changed my list. Just talk about my thoughts on the season, because if you don't know, I'm pretty sure the night before Battle Hardened Milwaukee was when Tome was released. And notably, for this entire season, all these events, I did not play Tome of the Imperial Flame, and I didn't really have any interest to, despite realizing how powerful it was. So I can talk about that later, or if you got questions, drop them in the comments and I can try to give my feedback. Okay, so this win a case event, me and my buddies went up. Was it multiple of us? Yeah, me and a couple of my friends. It was Kyle and Levi. We went up to this store called Battle Brothers in Wisconsin. Definitely check them out. Bunch of good dudes. And it was like a 5-round event. I think we only played 4 of it because we didn't do too great. So my first round was against this guy named Alex on Bolton. And I don't really know everything Bolton does, but I know if I block with non-attack actions, his turns are more difficult, and Dromai is pretty favored. So like I've pretty much disrespected this character for all time, and I think I'm going to continue to as long as I play Dromai. Yeah, that match, it's really just on me to lose it. I think I played okay at best, managed to squeeze through, but I got to see kind of the pace that Alex played Bolton at, so I think that was beneficial for the Battle Hardened. My next round was against Alexi. I've played against this guy named Lee several times now, and I just happen to have like these insane starts versus Lee, and it's always really demoralizing. I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, if you know me, you know I hate Lexi. I really think they should have dealt with that deck a lot earlier. I don't like that this PQ season was like a retirement party for her. Very vocal about that. So I feel bad for the person, except for the fact that they registered Lexi. Very happy to knock them out. Then my next round was against this dude named Ronan. Super nice guy, really knowledgeable. Plays Kano. I do not like playing against Kano. He, I think, killed me or got me down to like 3 or 4 on his second turn, and I went first. I didn't really feel like I had a lot I could have done, because if you look through my list, I had 2 Oasis and a Thamai. Like, I wasn't really respecting Wizards too much. I have a higher blue count, but not enough for that matchup, and I just got kind of smoked. And then the following round was against an Icelander, guy named Robert, also a super cool dude. Neither of us really seemed to be happy to play that match, and eventually Robert just like mentally fatigued or something and scooped. So really the rounds I wanted to bring up were the Bolton one and the Kano one, right? Bolton one, didn't really respect it, but it was cool to see. Alex plays Bolton really well, and then Kano also didn't really respect, just smoked me. But my opponent, Ronan, super nice guy and was explaining stuff. It was really appreciated. So that kind of frames up where I was at mentally. Like, I got a nice little 3-1 at some armory. Feeling okay. Learned a little bit, but right, those aren't really all typical matchups you expect. So then we'll go into the battle hardened. The Swiss was 7 rounds. And my preference on my list is to go first because I'm playing time skippers. So if I can remember my rounds, I'm going to try to remember if I got to go first or second. But this was just a really strange event, in my opinion, because I think out of my 7 rounds of Swiss, I played against 3 people I knew. And then in the top 8, I played against 2 people I knew. So, yeah, really, really strange. But first round, I get paired against a local. Her name's Holly. Super nice. She's been messing around with this deck, this max list. And I'm pretty sure that I got to go time skippers, make 3 Ash, set Tumultai, and then the next turn was Tumultai. Actually, wrong. I'm pretty sure I got to go second in Seekers and then Tumultai. One of the two. I got to hit the heart, and the way her deck was built, it was very reliant on the chess piece for resources. So the game kind of spiraled out of control. I got to play like super loose from that point on, just preserve my life total. I actually made a few huge mistakes that I think if Holly would have noticed, she could have beat me. But very happy she didn't. It always feels bad to beat somebody, but very thankful I got to start off 1-0. But once again, I've been playing this deck, I think, since February. I don't know if I've said that already. But I put a lot of reps in, and Holly's on like a brand new list, so I definitely felt pretty confident going into it. So that was my first round. My second round is against this guy named Raj, who's on Lexi. And a little backstory here, I played in the Battle Hardened in Chicago, and I was playing for my winning in, and Raj destroyed me. He played Lexi like way different than anyone else had, and actually went to like fatigue me and was heavier on ice, and it was not close. Like I think Raj beat me by like over 20. Super nice guy. We actually like added each other on Discord afterwards. Like I was pretty happy if I was going to lose to someone, it was as nice as he was. This game, I like kind of knew at least better how to play, and I was like, I don't know why I do this, but I'm like, I shouldn't board with like potential insider knowledge. I'm just gonna board how I would board into Lexi, and it almost bit me in the ass. Except that Raj had like the worst luck throughout the entire game. This was like, I mean, I'm very thankful, right? I wanted to win, but I think Raj, his Hornet Sting missed. 2 separate Ponders weren't good cards to Arsenal, so he had to skip that effect. I'm pretty sure his 3 of a kind was what he revealed off of the Hornet Sting. Went to the bottom of his library. Then when he finally got to a 3 of a kind, he shot like an arrow, maybe. It was just like bad variance after bad variance for him constantly. Like the one turn I decided not to attack with the dragon, he had all of his poppers. Like it was just kind of hilarious. And then to make it even funnier, I like couldn't just kill him. I finally set up for a Tumultai, and I hit one of my blues. So I just had to take his boots. Like it was just this like sloppy, like really, really pretty pathetic match all around. He is definitely good enough to just kick my ass. But it didn't happen. I beat him I was at 6 by the end of that game. It was just like a slow chipping away. Him just being miserable. Couldn't believe how bad his deck was. shout out to Raj, but maybe build a better deck, you know. Yeah, so that felt really good. Not that he had to lose, but like, got my vengeance, and he's a super nice guy, so I'm sure he'll get me next time, and I won't feel bad. So I'm 2-0. Feeling good there. And, but like, Raj is a really good player, so I was like nervous that somehow, I don't know why, that like Jem was just going to pair me against like all the killers in the room. And not to say my next opponent wasn't, but it was like the easiest matchup Dromai could ever get, and that's against Decimator Dorinthia. And also, I don't think my opponent had any practice playing into Dromai as Decimator Dorinthia. And I say that, not that my opponent wasn't skilled, but the score ended at 37-0. And notably, they were making really questionable attacks. I think they just felt defeated from the start, which is understandable. But they were making decisions that I think led to like a 0% chance to win, instead of like maybe the 10 or 15% chance they started with. So that was really nice from the perspective I got to kind of like reset my mental state. I wasn't sweating that matchup too hard and went straight into a 3-0, which was pretty cool. So from there, I played against my opponent named Zach. And Zach was a dude that is local to Wisconsin, I'm pretty sure. Super nice kid. And he was on Bravo, which I've practiced against a lot. And he was super nervous about the matchup, he told me afterwards. But I beat him by 1 life. Like, for him claiming he wasn't very experienced, he was making really good decisions, I think, turn after turn. Except I believe the game changer was he left a Dromai on board for I think 1 or 2 turns too long, and that's what allowed me to get back the tempo. Because I think at one point, my life pad doesn't really tell me, you know, based on turns, but I'm pretty sure I was down to like 10 while he was at 29. And then his life just started tanking. Like he couldn't reclaim the tempo because that Dromai stayed on board. And then I finally had enough wiggle room to play like a mirror guy. And then there's 2 dragons he has to answer. I have Ash Wings left over, just chip coming in like crazy, and I managed to squeeze it out. But yeah, big props to Zach because for claiming he's not that good into Dromai, I think he played exceptionally well. Definitely stoked that my list was still on the defensive end compared to being on the tome lists, like the people that exclusively play the Royal Crown, I think make their Bravo matchup a lot worse, not having Ghostly Touch. Yeah, so 4-0 at that point. Then I queue into this guy named Nick, and Nick was on Azuri, and I'm pretty sure from watching the coverage, Nick made top 8 of the PTI with his Azuri list. But unfortunately, Azuri has a terrible matchup anyway. But additionally, I think if there's one matchup I've tested the most of on Talishar, it has to be probably Azuri, because my friend Sam would just before a different battle hardened, I think it was Cincinnati. I mean, he wanted to drill this matchup so much. Like, he's so good at, just putting his nose to the grindstone. And yeah, I mean, I've played this matchup like a million times. You kind of just get to use your first, it feels like 25 to 30 life is do whatever you want to me. I'm just going to develop, 2 dragons at a time. Play Ash Wings, right? I'm fortunate enough to play Billowing Mirage, Dust Ups. This build has had 3 Uvias and obviously Rakes. If you just get enough little dragons out, they just have to make this hard decision of, do I manage the board or try to race? But their damage isn't that high. So it's just really rough for the Azuri. You have a bunch of defense reactions for if stuff matters. The blood rots can be rough, but overall, it's just a really great matchup for Dromai. Additionally, if I'm remembering this wrong correctly, then my opponent Nick was cracking me up because he was saying like he's having stomach issues and looked miserable. But every time I'd ask like if he wanted to take a break and like use the bathroom or something, he's like, "I'm not interested." It was just super funny, and I think his disinterest caused him to make some weird early game decisions. Like I got to have a passing Mirage out, I feel like, for over half the game. But yeah, managed to take that one down. Final score, I think I was at 15. So, I mean, that's not particularly close. But once again, this is a super favored matchup. Okay. So then the next round, I managed to get paired into the only other undefeated Dromai at that time. And it was Guy. And if you guys write this video, I recorded it really late. But Guy just managed to win a calling. Obviously, very skilled Dromai player. Absolutely destroyed me. And the only thing I can remember that really was really tough for me, one, I think Guy's list was better tailored for the mirror because it had several copies of Snatch. He was on like blue dust up tech. I think Miraging Metamorph's fairly decent into the mirror. I can't remember what else, but I think neither of us were on Tome, which was pretty cool because afterwards he was like, "Do you not like that card?" I'm like, "I don't really think that's how I want to play Dromai." And at the time he agreed. Obviously, he found reasons to run it for the calling, but it was just cool at that time that the two undefeated, neither of us were playing that card. The other card, I don't know if I said it already, he had blue dust up. He was just way better positioned, I think, for the mirror. He's probably easy to say a much better player than I am. And the only other thing that stunk is I got jammed up with, I only played 2 of this card because I hate when you draw multiples, and I got jammed up with like 1 in Arsenal, and then I drew 1, and I'm like, I can't just keep IPing myself. So I think I had to remembrance back, like, I guess it's up to, so I didn't have to, but I wanted the value. So I think I remembrance back like a popper, a mediocre dragon, and like a sweeping blow. And that just felt terrible. Whereas, like, Guy's, remembrance is like Asvali, Rake. It's like, all right, well, just right there, it's a pretty noticeable difference. Also, I think Guy's was on Snapdragons, which is pretty freaking good in the mirror. As you'll see later, I messed around with my list for the ProQuest season and found room for that in Snaps because I think it made a big difference. But yeah. Guy was my only loss of, well, spoiler alert, I guess, but he was my only loss of the Swiss. It was really cool to meet him. Super nice guy. Definitely trounced me, but it was a fun game, so I wasn't really upset. Then the next round is I brought up that win a case because my next round was against Alex again on Bolton. And like I was saying, I don't really know the optimal lines of Bolton. And until probably after playing against Alex a few times, I don't really care to learn them. Or didn't really care to learn them. But the game got pretty close. Let me see if I got the life pad still. Yeah, I ended up winning by 3. I don't want to share too much details from this match, I guess. Except that at the end, it seemed like I made certain decisions that would look questionable, but I was in like, the life didn't indicate it, but based on like the cards that I had at my disposal, I felt so favored that I was, and this could be wrong, but I was like trying to represent a position of weakness to see if Alex would overextend and then get punished by it. And he still couldn't even present like enough damage where I felt like I had to do that. Once again, that could be a flawed way of thinking, but that's like how I went about it. When the life total got so low like that, I had a bunch of my zero cost cards left. Like I think I still had all my Rabbles, and in my arsenal I think I had parked an Oasis. So like if he did any cheeky kind of reaction stuff or any attack I really cared about, I knew I could take a little bit of damage and get like the full 5 value plus an Ash. So yeah, that one felt really good to lock down. But once again, Alex plays pretty well. I'm pretty sure he had at least 2 instances of like pretty rough variants. So I know that really sucks when you're playing to try to get into the top 8. I'm sure he'll make it eventually. I was super stoked to make it in. So, get to top 8. I pair against the Kano from the night prior, Ronan. And I'm not even going to try to say I did anything particularly well. I just applied more pressure than the other game. And then when Ronan went for his combo, I think he needed a blue, hit a red. The game was kind of a wrap from there. And yeah, I think that's just kind of how Kano goes. Hate playing against that deck because that just... Flesh and Blood is so cool from the other games I've come from, where there's such a back and forth a lot of times. And Kano kind of just doesn't follow that. I get it's for some people, but yeah, I was super stoked to win. I just never really feel like it's like a deck check versus and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a deck check rather than a knowledge check a lot of times, and I think that stinks. But then again, I'm playing Dromai, and I'm sure other people share that opinion. That's just my opinion on Kano. Yeah, and then the next round, I get paired against my friend Rick, and he's on Icelander. And once again, if you look at my list, I got more blues, but 1 Thamai kind of stinks here. 2 Oasis. I definitely should have played a lot differently than I did. But it was cool because, right, we knew each other. We were just I'm happy if he wins. I think he's happy if I win. We agreed to split, whatever our haul was. So it was nice to just end on a good note regardless. And I was happy to cheer him on in the finals. So yeah, that was my top 4. That was my battle hardened. Get to top 4. It was super fun. I wish I put more work into my list beforehand. And the time from every card got used for the most part, except I never wanted Warmongers. It was just a blue 3 block. And until the end, Dromai is such a good class where you can put in respect for wizards, but then I think the cards just suck everywhere else, so it really feels bad to put in that respect unless you think there's going to be wizards at the end. But whatever, my deck building here wasn't particularly clean. This probably should have just been either 2 Snatches or 2 Thamais, but I didn't fully commit. I just have 2 Warmongers. It just was a pretty lazily built deck list, but I felt like I could play well enough with it, and I managed the top 4. But all that being said, I didn't want to run with the exact same list for the ProQuest season. For the ProQuest season, I changed my list to look like this. And I guess I could just talk about some notable changes. And I can actually use this opportunity to talk about why I didn't want to play Tome of the Imperial Flame. So, notable changes. I made one of my Oasis into a sand cover. I felt like my Ash economy was good enough where I could support not having to pay a resource for Oasis. And if you can tell, my respect for Wizard went up by a lot. I went all the way up to the Thamais, all 3. And I'm struggling. I made some other trims. I think I went down a Billowing Mirage. Down an Uvia. Oh, and down the 2 Warmongers to get in Snatches and Snapdragon Scalers. And I should say, once again, my memory's bad. This is the list I ended on, I know, for the last 2 ProQuests. I don't know if I used it exactly for this one I'm about to talk about in Wisconsin. But my logic for changing this up was, right, the Ash economy here and the mirror match was pretty rough because I feel like Tome just bust that matchup open. That card. Oh yeah. Also, I added these 2 blue dust ups. Once again, for respect for the mirror. But Tome just kind of like, in my opinion, it inspires you to play Dromai in a way that you couldn't before, and I think people like Mara have been pushing for, and it's just not how I like to play the character, where it's like, I know she's Draconic and she's Redline, so that inspires you to play aggressively, but my issue with that is, she's like, the appeal to Dromai for me has always been, she feels like a character that can play 5 card through 1 card hands and blocks extremely well. So you have a lot more agency, in my opinion, to set up your pitch stack, have good turns no matter the situation your opponent puts you in. And I think that's really interesting compared to, playing like the Flame Call Awakening, Phoenix Flame, or Tome, where I think they strongly encourage you to keep like 4 to 5 card hands. In my opinion, if I wanted to play an aggro deck like that, I would just play Ninja or Runeblade. I don't really want my Illusionist to play that way. And I'm not saying it's not powerful, but that's my feeling on the deck, right? Like, the other crown, it's good because you don't have to necessarily play some of this other shitty equipment. You have the gold to make you Ash. Tome makes you a ridiculous amount of Ash. It's like you don't even have the restriction anymore. It's crazy that that's a resource card from your arsenal. I get there's so many appealing factors to it, not appeals. What the hell is that? But yeah, that's just my logic. It's just not the way I've wanted to play Dromai. I don't think it ever will be. I totally understand the power. Like, I think that card just busts open the mirror. But yeah, it's just not for me. So anyways, I just wanted to address that because for this whole season, I do not play the Royal Tome package. I just don't. So we can go into this PQ. Let me double check this is still recording. Okay, looks like it is. Alright, so for this ProQuest, I'm going to start going through them a little quicker. This ProQuest, I started off versus a guy named Sage. Sage was on Dromai, and this is actually the match that kind of like shook me into realizing I should put more time into testing Tome. Because in my opinion, I'm more experienced on Dromai than Sage is. I think. Sage just like contraband tomed me like a million times, probably too many times, and that's what cost him the game. But I think he was making some questionable decisions throughout the match, and Tome just kept him in there the whole time. It was so much aggression and just like the perfect cards coming, right? Because you get that filter, tons of Ash, you didn't have to worry about it. It was really rough. And we were going to time, so both of us started speeding up, and I think that's just kind of where my it seemed like my experience paid through, where I didn't have to think as much about my lines, even though I was making mistakes too. But yeah, Sage is a super nice guy. I just like that match opened my eyes to Tome. Get that match versus Sage, then I get paired into a Katsu, and I suck against Katsu. This match was no exception. This guy demolished me. I think he beat me by probably over 30. I just kept making poor blocking decisions. Got destroyed. So 1-1. Then I get paired into a guy named Bryce. Bryce was on Dash. Dash is a really favorable matchup. The game ended pretty close, but as Dromai, you have so much agency that, right, Bryce was playing his ass off. He was playing really clean, making good decisions, got it pretty close, but I took a bunch of damage just to be able to close out the game. I think he was living at 1 for like 7 turns, which is pretty funny though. Yeah, got that one, 2-1. Then I got paired into Lee again, who Lee is the guy I mentioned at the beginning of the video, plays Lexi. Nice guy. Don't like the deck. Always seem to have pretty good starting turns against Lee. This game was no exception. I think I ate like a 22 damage turn to come back with something nuts like Kyloria, Chromai, after, using my boots time skippers on turn 1. And Lee didn't have a popper, decided not to block any of it. and I think I drew like, I don't know. It just went crazy. I think that game lasted like 3-4 turns. The board was just way too out of control. I was always able to, like, I think off of one of those Kylorias, I drew another Dromai. So it's like play Dromai, Kyloria, just like got out of control. So 2-1. Or no, sorry, that's 3-1. Then the next round, I get paired against my friend that I drove up with, Arjun, also on Lexi. Managed to beat Arjun. Feels bad to knock out a teammate, but we both made top 8. Then in top 8, I get paired against Arjun. I made a mistake that I really hate, which is I didn't sideboard correctly. I rushed after the deck check. My fault. Arjun punished me for it. I think he sent CNC at me for 3 turns in a row when I had a Tumulti in my arsenal. And part of my sideboarding, the main sideboarding issue was I left in Time Snap. So that no block was really frustrating. I think I had a hand that was like Rake, Rabble, Time Snap, Sigil on one of the CNCs, and I'm like, well, I am just fucked. So yeah, died in top 8, but felt pretty good. Then I went to a ProQuest in Chicago. This one was actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure this wasn't the list I played at the last one, but we can pretend it is. I think this is where I debuted this list, and this was a rough day. I'm just going to speed run through it because I did nothing exceptional. I went 2-3. My opponents clapped me for the most part. First round, beat a Bravo. The guy was like, I hate playing this matchup. So we got there. Next round, played against my friend Aaron. Aaron was on Katsu. I made like 2 or 3 really, really terrible blocks and got destroyed. My next round was my friend Kyle. Kyle was also on Bravo. Kyle played Bravo as well as you can play Bravo. Had some really strong turns. I think he ended like under 10, but it did not feel like a close game at all. I was super salty about it, felt bad. Then my next round was against this guy named Johnny. Johnny was nice, playing Lexi, but this was like a game that, this is no knock to Johnny. Johnny played very well, was a nice person, but this is just one of those games where I'm like, Lexi was just in such a different tier of power, and it kind of felt at a point like a deck that just played itself, and you just had no choice. So like this was a game where I think Johnny sent like 20 points of damage at me, and I was, trying to set up a Tumulti, and I'm like, all right, I gotta take it. And then Johnny ends the turn with a Red Arctic. And maybe it wasn't 20, maybe it was like almost 20 damage, but Johnny said something like, I noticed you weren't blocking a lot, so I played this Red Arctic. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not really a decision, like obviously you're gonna do that if I have cards in hand. Like, yeah, I decided you didn't get a turn next turn. So that just kind of like twisted the dagger. I was 1-3, it sucked. But my friends were all still alive for top 8, which super happy for it. So I played my next round. I played against a mirror match, a guy named Nathan, a local. I would say, once again, I'm more experienced. The game was still pretty close because Nathan was playing Tome, and draw 2 of your 3 Tomes. You have so many more Ash, you don't have to really worry about the Ash economy. But I think was just overall playing like a worse build and made some questionable plays. So I ended up 2-3. Nothing special. Shout out to my friends. I think 4 of my friends I came with all made top 8. So that was awesome. And then we got good food afterwards. Good day. Just feeling a little down. So the final PQ I played was in West Chicago. And for some reason, I felt inspired that, I don't know if I was defeated or what, but I was like, fuck it, we're running the same list. I don't want to make any changes, even though I just went 2-3 and got destroyed. So showed up with this exact same configuration. Round 1, I get paired into a friend I rolled up with who is on Arachne. And if you feel favored into Azuri, Arachne is really just, it's just so rough. Like, Jason's a great player, but he was joking. He's like, I should have just played Regicide on turn 1. And yeah, it's kind of what it felt like. You just get to like spew a bunch of permanents out. He doesn't have that many poppers. He tried his best to. I think he had like 9 in the list plus 3 remembrance. It just doesn't matter. You can just go too wide, present too much. You can let him mill you. It doesn't even matter. You're just like facilitating a simulation of Dromai beating up a poor little assassin. So, beat Jason, 1-0. Then I get paired into my friend Arjun again. So that's the guy who knocked me out of top 8 at the first PQ. Here, he destroys me. I think in his first 4 turns of play. Or I should say first 5, because like his first turn was just setting up. I tried putting him on the play. First 4 turns after that, 3 of them were Rain Razors. I think 2 of them were Rain Raisins, 3 of a kind. It was not close, got destroyed. I'm like, alright, well at least I lost to a friend. Then I played against a Dorinthia. That Dorinthia was making plays, and it just got out of control too fast. Like, the start of the game, spend it managing counters, and then, you just get to that point where it's like, here's 2 or 3 dragons. What are you going to do? Spend your whole turn dealing with that, or are you going to attack me? They started blocking a little too early, in my opinion, and that game just spiraled out of control. So I was 2-1. Then I get paired into my friend Jeremy on Lexi. That match, I remember putting Jeremy in a few tough decisions. I got to Tomultai taking his Trench, which I don't know if Trench was the right call, but he had good logic behind playing it. It ended up making a lot of his turns clunky, and he was presenting with weird situations of like, do I clear this dragon? But the dragon, he had an arrow coming in for like 6. It's like, do I waste this on a dragon, or do I let that dragon beat me up all game? He would use it on a dragon, and then I ended up winning, I think, by 6. So it was rough. I know Jeremy hasn't been liking that deck. It's not really for him, other than the fact that it's good. Keep trying to get him to play a better deck like Vincent. He won't listen to me. So at that point, I am 3-1. I get paired into my friend Rick again, who knocked me out of top 4 at the Battle Hardened. He beats me on Icelander, doing that kind of like, I played it too slow. I was playing okay, but then he did that shit where it's like, Icelander taxes you once, and then like with it on the stack taxes you again, and I'm like, I literally just can't do anything. But I'm sure I made other mistakes. So at that point, I was 3-2, gets you into top 8, which like, okay, not gonna complain. But then in top 8, I just wanted to share this event because top 8, I've played against this girl named Lila, I think. Feel bad if I pronounce that wrong. On Katsu, and I got to go first, play Time Skippers, Arsenal Tomultai, then I Tomultai the headpiece, and even through that, I think I only won by 8. But I finally freaking take down Akatsu. I was so stoked. Just kind of like playing like the value game, block when I can, develop a dragon when there's an opportunity. She did like a Art of War double bonds turn. That's why the game got so close. Like, still played really well for not having the mask, but managed to get there. Then my next round is against Arjun again. So this is the 4th time over 3 ProQuests that I'm playing against Arjun. This time, we, no joke, sat there shuffling for forever. This match was hilarious because Arjun had been complaining literally about shuffling so much against my other friend that his hand was cramping. We were sitting there shuffling for a while, multiple pile shuffles. I get to turn like 1 Tomultai him. And this was tilting because the guy who was judging, and it was his store, started like insinuating that I'm cheating. And first off, why would I cheat against a friend? Second off, like, I just don't think you should do that as a tournament organizer. Like, either actually have like proof to substantiate that, or just, like, God was on my side that day. Like, I don't know what to tell him. It was just a little frustrating to hear someone, like, casually say you're cheating when it's, like, not the case. But anyways, a little tilting. Dissatisfied with that tournament organizer for multiple reasons. I'll explain in the next round. Or no, it's in the same game, actually. Because that one, it started off by me playing Tumultai. Then the game's progressing, and Arjun is making the decision to not clear Chromeyes. So I had 2 Chromeyes on the board. Arjun's trying to push damage, which I don't know if that was the right decision, but it's the one he's making. So at one point, I think I had like 2 Chromeyes and an Ashwing. I have no cards in my hand. I go swing with Chromeye. And then the guy comes over and he's like, you can't do that. You're like trying to cheat. And I'm just like, dude, yes I can. Explain how I can't do this. And he goes, oh, I thought that was a different card. And I'm just like, do you just have it out for me? Or like, what the hell's the deal? So yeah, ultimately, just a little bitter. If you can't tell. I don't think a judge, tournament organizer should be doing that. If you're really concerned about it, watch our game to like catch me cheating. You know what I mean? Instead of just like throwing out loose claims. But yeah, that's the end of my rant. Make it into the finals. It's against this guy named Rob. I think he made top 8 of Worlds. I don't know why he was in the middle of Illinois. But yeah, ultimately decided to split the prize. I didn't really care about the gold foil. I just wanted to get the invite to Vegas so he could take that. And yeah, that was the end of my ProQuest season. So the season overall was pretty cool for me. I top 4 to Battle Harden, and I got my first ever invite to the, Pro Tour. So I was really stoked. There's obviously a ton for me to learn, but really my biggest takeaway from the season is Dromai's really powerful, but she can get pretty tiring to play, and I've been playing her for so long now. And really for me, this it might sound stupid, but she got this card Tome that I think so strongly pushes you to play in a direction that I do not want to play, that now I'm like looking to change decks, which feels weird also, right? Because I've been having at least local success, and I've put in so much work. But yeah, that's just kind of how I feel. I feel like she went from this cool, like diverse play style of hand size, defensive, which I really like blocking in this game. I think that's what hooks me compared to other card games. So now she's just like really incentivized to be this aggressive deck that can just like cheese you, spit out too many dragons. Like you don't have to manage your Ash the same way. Like I think this Time Skippers tech, for example, I think it's like Hayden Dale was talking about it, or his friend Nick Butcher. You get so much value, and you're playing like... You get so much value because you're playing this shitty pair of boots, but it just allows you to play without worrying about your Ash, and there's so much value to that. Now they just released a book that just has like a... It has some kind of deck building requirement, but I just don't like the direction it takes you in. I don't like that it's a no block. Like I'm saying, I like playing defense. I don't like that you can't play Crown of Providence because I feel like Crown of Providence is so good in Dromai. Yeah, it's kind of like pushed me off of the deck, which I'm sure people locally will be happy about because a lot of people are tired of playing into Dromai. But yeah, my friend gave me some questions. I just want to see if I'm missing anything. I think I talked about it, pretty much everything. I'm really curious to see if this deck does well with Lexi finally hitting Living Legend. I think she was doing so well because she preyed on Lexi. Happy to be proven wrong. Obviously, there's been some big changes lately. I might make a video talking about it. But yeah, overall, Dromai is a pretty fun deck. She's really unique. A lot of people get salty when you play against that, so if you're into that, definitely recommend trying this. And yeah, like I was saying, this was mostly for me to kind of remember my season as time goes on. But if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate it. Leave a comment. Thank you for watching. Peace.